8. Time to talk with the leader of the co-leader of the Green Party, Russel Norman, with us this morning, and now in the preferred Prime Minister stakes as well. Good morning, Russell.
Morning, Wammo.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good. Good to notch up almost a couple of percent in the preferred Prime Minister in one of the latest polls that's just come out.
Oh, is that right? I haven't seen that.
You hadn't heard that? Oh, come on. You're being modest.
No. It's news to me. You've broken it to me, Wammo. What am I on?
Well, it was on the on stuff. I don't know. I'm going to go find it again. But you're at 1.7 or something. 1.7%.
1.7.
Yeah.
Holy dooly.
Whoop, whoop. But that's not far behind Phil Goff.
Oh, yes, he's on 6.9. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, we're getting there step by step.
And the Greens also remained over 10%, I think 10.1% in this poll as well, which shows you guys staying steady around about that number. Which
is great.
Yeah,
be good to pick up some more.
Yeah, just to keep it over the 10. I mean, does this see? I mean, obviously, the Greens are now cemented as the third party in New Zealand. But do you foresee a time when you could be up there with the with number one or number two? You could replace Labour, perhaps.
Well, it's certainly the ambition of the Greens to become one of the leading parties in terms of public support, and it takes time to build a political party to that position. I mean, when you think about the history of Labour or National, it took a long time to build those parties, but the key thing for us is to make good green change, and sometimes we do that by having the numbers in Parliament, and sometimes we do it by working with public opinion and leading public opinion on issues. I mean, you think about the preventing the mining in national parks. That was working with part of a broader green, small g green movement to actually make sure we didn't mine national parks. So we produce change in a multitude of ways.
Or even heritage policies, I suppose, is what you could call them. The whole decriminalise marijuana is very much an old policy of the Greens, and that's certainly been making headlines this week with the other end of the spectrum, Don Brash, coming out. I don't even know if it's a policy, actually. I mean, it seems to be just his opinion at this stage, but it's not something you disagree with.
No, that's right. I mean, I guess I never thought I would see a headline in the Herald, vote Brash for hash, but there it was.
But it's not something you guys talk about very much these days, though, is it?
No, we don't talk about it. It's not one of our kind of key election priorities, which are around, getting kids out of poverty, cleaning up rivers, and creating green jobs. There's our kind of three key priorities. But obviously you got to take an evidence-based approach to drugs, and an evidence-based approach says that criminalising cannabis hasn't worked. There's massive evidence about that, and all it does is lock up lots of people and use massive resources. I mean, we are talking huge amounts of taxpayer money caught up in this. Talking
to Phil Goff about this on Monday, and his main comebacks involved the health issue and the fact that all the main studies, I didn't name a study or anything, but all the main studies suggest that marijuana is damaging, particularly to young people, and so if we decriminalise it, it'll become more available to everyone.
Yeah, I don't know if he really believes that, but I mean, if he does, then he doesn't get out very much.
I don't think he does believe it. To be honest, I could tell in his voice he didn't really believe it, but he has to toe the line, right?
Right. Yeah, because the thing is people know cannabis is widely available in New Zealand now under the current set of laws, but we don't have proper controls in place to protect human health because it's criminalised.
Yes.
So if you decriminalise it, you can actually put in place proper controls around health, and you don't increase availability because it is pretty much universally available now.
And under a decriminalised situation, obviously marijuana would probably be available for medicinal use, and that would be state controlled, would it not?
Yeah, in California, I mean, when you wander down the streets in California, they have that medicinal cannabis shops and stuff, and everyone's got to be state registered for that. That's kind of how they deal with it over there.
Yeah. Okay. And move on from that anyway, because last week you were talking about green growth and growing jobs. We previewed it last week around about this time. I think you were talking about it later on the Tuesday. But then National came out and just said, well, you guys are lunatics. Pretty weird, radical policies you got going there, Greens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the paradox is that it's so incredibly mainstream internationally. It's like report after report after report comes out about green business and all the rest of it and green jobs. And very mainstream organisations put these reports out, whether it's the OECD or, I mean, there was a feature in The Economist about it. And yet the government seems to think it's some kind of crazy talk.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very mainstream. And if we're going to live on the planet sustainably, which, is where we're going, then there's going to be more and more green business opportunities. And not just for our, because we want to save the future, but also because we want New Zealand to prosper, we need to grab some of those opportunities.
What seemed to be missing from the reporting of your plan last week was the fact that that there are other business leaders in New Zealand. I think Stephen Tyndall being one of them, and the Pure Advantage group of business leaders agree with your policies, right?
Yeah, Pure Advantage is very much, working along the same line, trying to look at what are the green business opportunities so that New Zealand, gets a cut of them, as well as playing our role to, improve our environmental footprint. And it's just very mainstream. I mean, it's kind of the thing that I find always striking on this is just how much there are all these mainstream thinkers, and internationally and in New Zealand in the business community, and how out of touch National is to think that this is some kind of crazy talk. It's not. It's obviously what we need to do.
Well, talking about sort of what's going on in the wider world at the moment, obviously all that concerning economic news coming out of Europe, but some good sounds coming from John Key. He says everything's going to be all right. We're pretty much protected here. What do you think? Do you believe him? Is he on the button?
No, I mean, we're not protected here. I mean, we've been buffered to some extent by our close economic relationship with Australia, which in turn has been buffered by the boom in China. And so those two kind of connections, and also our direct connection to China, has helped us. But, China itself is not immune to the global economic woes. And so, there are challenges for New Zealand because of that. We're not immune from it.
In fact, he names China as being one main reason why we should be sitting prettier down here. But China looks like they might have their own problems in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, China's, obviously been going gangbusters, and they are in a very powerful position. I mean, we're seeing a fundamental realignment of global economic power right in front of our eyes. And our relationship with China has been very helpful, and the fact that China has wanted the commodities coming out of New Zealand has been very helpful for New Zealand and obviously for Australia as well. But, they've got their own limits in terms of, the growth development over there. And so, they're going to hit some of their own pressures. That if they don't move to develop more internal domestic demand, which is what they need to do, because they've relied on an export market for Chinese products, and that export market is in real trouble, particularly in North America.
Finally, sad to see Sue Kedgley's valedictory speech yesterday in Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, she's been there, 12 years. She's done a good stint. So at some level it's like, well, she's made her contribution and now it's time to go and do other things. But, it's kind of it's a changing of the guard, I guess, for the Greens. The transition from the original group that got in 99, her and Keith are the last. And, Sue's made a huge contribution. She's, such a great campaigner. I mean, I think she epitomises the way the Greens, we make change in multiple ways, whether it's campaigning outside Parliament or working inside Parliament. You can make change and achieve things, taking either of those paths, if you like, and Sue's been very effective at that.
Brilliant. Russell Norman, Colour of the Greens, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Cheers, thanks so much.